Hello there, everybody. What do you do a Sunday like this when it is raining outside, it's thunder outside, it's grey? Well, it's a good time to make a movie and do something new to your YouTube channel. I said in a previous video that I would change my vinyl and CD update. I will not do them once a month like before. Because I felt like they were a bit too long. I wanted to do something new. So ironically enough, this first installment of this new series will be at the end of the month, like the vinyl CD updates, regular ones. But that will not be in the end of the month from after this. It will be every now and then when I feel like I have found so much that I can show a stack of records. So I will not be bound to a certain time of the month anymore. So let's start. I have full-length albums, I have 3 CDs, and I have a couple of vinyl singles to show. Starting with the vinyl singles, we have here Rod Stewart, a man that I've said before that I'm not a giant fan of, but I've done some great songs, and this is a song that I'm listening a lot to at the old Swedish radio shows, and that I finally managed to realize that this is actually a good song. It's some kind of follow-up to Baby Jane from the Body Wishes album in 1983. What am I gonna do? I'm so in love with you. Really nice quality of this single also. We have Sheena Easton, Are You Man Enough? From the Madness, Money and Music album, 1982. Eagles from 1979, The Long Run, from the album with the same name. I have this album and really happy to find a single from that album, Disco Strangler, at the B-side. Really amazing quality actually in these singles. Swedish rock and blues band Wilmer X, and a single from 1991, Har du sett min ängel? Have you seen my angel? More Swedish. We had I was yesterday at the game and record fair that I've been showing from before. I'm sorry, but I missed to film from inside yesterday. But I still can show the records that I found there. I didn't buy that much. I put more money in quality instead of quantity. So I'm very satisfied with what I found though. We have here Swedish prog group Contact. I said before that I'm no huge fan of Swedish prog, but there are exceptions in every genre, and this is one of them. They're playing with a folk music group called Skäggemanslaget, Beard Man's Team, something like that. And the most famous song is a song called Hon kom över mon, She Came Over the Field. And that is the song that I actually think is great. From the beginning, that one was actually a B-side. It's not often that a B-side becomes even bigger than the main side of a single, but this is the case actually. The A-side is called Jag är lite ledsen ikväll, I'm a little sad tonight, but I bought it for this B-side, and I actually think it's a great arrangement. I like this song, maybe the best prog song that ever been released, even though the lyrics are a little bit cheesy. But I'm very glad to have finally found it on a single. From Norway comes a band called Fra Lippi, a Norwegian band that actually became bigger in Asia than in their home country. They had a pretty good hit in UK with a song called Shouldn't Have to Be Like That, a really great 80s song. And I think that Fra Lippi is a really great band that normally do some little melodic and calm pop music. And in this single from the album Lights and Shade, it is also more acoustic than it was on Shouldn't Have to Be Like That. But I like it very much. This is Some People. And on the other side, a live version of Even Tall Trees Band from the albums before that, songs. This is produced by Walter Becker from Steely Dan. So it's a really great one. So that was the singles. I have 3 CDs, all with the same band, all Swedish. I mentioned before that I'm a huge fan of Swedish rock band Eldkvarn. And I managed to find 3 albums with this band that I didn't have before. The oldest one is this one from '93, Pluralism. We have this album that I actually haven't seen before. I didn't know it existed, so I'm very happy to have seen it. From '97, Lyckliga Tider, Happy Times. And this one from 2011, De berömdas aveny, the avenue of the famous ones. This is, from what I understand, their final album. They are not making music anymore, but who knows in the future. But for now, this is their final album. Then, full length, have really great stack. First, I'm very happy to announce that I finally found something that sounds like a new wave synth pop. It's not easy to find it these days, at not least for a reasonable price, but I managed to find an album with Altered Images, a band that I haven't been all that interested in before. I've heard, of course, Happy Birthday, and I think it's an okay song, but not my absolute favorite in the genre. But then I've heard some other songs lately with this band and realized that, hey, this is a really great band. And I heard quick peeks of this Pinky Blue from 1982, and it sounds really great, happy synth pop style. So I'm very happy to have this album with Altered Images. I'm going to start to discover them even more from now on. A band that's even more forgotten than Altered Images are Kissing the Pink. This is the album Certain Things Are Likely from 1986. And I have the single Never Too Late to Love You. And I got very curious about the entire album, so I managed to find it for $1. And I listened to quick peeks of this one as well, and it sounds really great. Mid-80s synth / pop style, and sounds very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to listen to the entire album. I showed once before an album by a band called Gargoni, Martin and Taylor, that I managed to find for free in the free bin on our second-hand store Återbruket. And now we had Selånger Marknad, Selånger Market, that comes once a year. And there I managed to find a couple of albums. And this one, another album with this band, it was one of them. Gotta Get Back to Cisco. This is 70s, I think. And some singer-songwriter style with sounds like America or something like that. And it's also still sealed, even though it's cut out, but it's still sealed. So it's going to. I'm very, very curious about this one. I also found a jazz album. John Lewis and Hank Jones together playing double piano. From what I understand, without bass and drums also. An evening with two grand pianos. And even though it's called an evening, it is not live, but it's a studio recording. Normally I'm not all that fond of this kind of double piano because they tend to be a little bit messy trying to figure out which one is of the pianist is who. But actually this one is really, really great. They're playing so well together, and it's great versions of jazz standards. So this one I've listened to, and it's really, really great actually. I had since before the disco version of Star Wars by Miko, 70s disco version, and I've wanted for so long to have another album with him. He had managed to done other movies that is put it in a disco style on, like Close Encounter of the Third Kind or something like that. He also made a 70s disco version of The Wizard of Oz. And the music is really great. This is the same kind of a colorful and very experimental disco style as the Star Wars theme. A little bit weirder though, as there are vocals is in this also, which isn't on the Star Wars, but it is also that Star Wars was more of a pop culture phenomenon when Miko's version was released. This was very close to the release of the Star Wars movie, and but this one is a 30s musical movie musical, and it's a little bit weird to hear that in a 70s disco style. But it's really, really great album, and I'm really, really great to have found it. It's really, really magnificent arranged and produced. A great, interesting jazz album that I managed to find with an interesting concept. United Nations with Toshiko and her International Jazz Tet. Toshiko is a Japanese jazz pianist that have gathered together names from different kind of countries, jazz musicians from different kind of countries. These are recordings released in the very early 60s, I think. We have, besides Japan, we have Nat Adderley, cornet from USA, Rolf Kuhn on clarinet from Germany. We have Bobby Jasper, flute from Belgium, René Thomas, guitar from Canada, and John Drew, bass from England, and Bert Dallander from Sweden. So this is a very, very interesting concept for a jazz album. I'll listen to quick peeks of it. This one was supposed to be more expensive than it actually was, but it's little wrong made. So the first tracks on each side aren't playable. So I was a little, I was warned about it of course, but I felt like I wanted to have it because this one is so special that until I find a real great version of it for a reasonable price, I want to have this one, as the rest of the songs are full playable, and I listen to quick peeks. It sounds very, very great jazz. So even though the first tracks on each side are not playable, the rest of the tracks on this album are, and I keep it for that because it's a really, really great concept, and it's a really, really interesting album. Now, 3 albums with Duke Ellington I managed to find. We have Duke Ellington, The London Concert. consisting Togo Brava Brava Togo Suite that I didn't have since before, and you know that I like Duke Ellington's 50s and 60s suites that he made. This is a double album set, and I paid only $1 for this one. Only $1 for this one also. Duke Ellington plays original motion picture score Mary Poppins. Only that sounds very, very interesting concept. It is released on something called Valiant, and the problem is that this label hasn't taken the time to write out the year when it is done, which musicians who is in the orchestra. Normally I don't like that, but I felt so curious about Duke Ellington playing Mary Poppins, so I felt like I gotta have this one. And from the game, going back to the Game Record Fair yesterday, 4 records I managed to find there on vinyl. This is Duke Ellington, the Great Paris Concert. No suite here, but it is still great one, not consisting hardly any of his most overplayed songs. Perdido is here, but that is a good song. So, but this double album set that I paid $3 for is $4. Sorry, $4 is looking very, very interesting. It is from Olympia Theatre in Paris, live concert. Who would imagine that I would start collecting Duke Ellington so big? Al Stewart is a name that I haven't been listening all that much to, but I've started to listen and see if I like him or not, listen to songs on YouTube and so on, and I discovered that this is a really great song. I've heard Year of the Cat, but that is more or less the only song I've heard. So I got very interested in Al Stewart and the album Year of the Cat from 1976, so I managed to find it. And we have, take this first, Chicago, a double LP set that I didn't know existed. I only paid $3 for this one, double LP set in great quality. Chicago at Cagney Hall. It's a live concert from Cagney Hall in 1971. Really, really great. And finally, this one I didn't pay a thing for because I won it at the Game and Record Fair. They have had a lottery where I won actually, and I got the chance to pick an album as a prize, and I picked this one, the BT Express, and 1980. Not the best BT Express album. It is produced by Maury Brown, that I hadn't heard of before, but it's a production that sounds a little bit too much sometimes like Nile Rodgers and Cheek sound from the late 70s that I'm not too fond of. But it's great melodies, and it's still great produced, and some really great tracks. A great ballad called Better Late Than Never. So this is a really good album, even though I think Nonstop, for example, it's even stronger and even better. But I'm very glad to have this one in my collection. So I hope that you have enjoyed my latest findings now. So until next time, have a really nice time, no matter where you are, no matter what you do. Take care, and so long.